It was a stormy night, and the rain was pounding against the windows. Daniel sat on his couch, mindlessly scrolling through websites, trying to find something that could distract him from the storm. Out of pure curiosity, he decided to explore the dark web. He had heard so much about it but had never dared to check it out until now. As he delved deeper, he came across a mysterious post. The title read, "The Red Room," and the details were murky. He clicked on the link, not expecting much, but he was greeted with a live stream of a dark room. Several people sat in front of a computer, frantically typing away. And then, something caught his attention. In the corner of the room, there was a young girl, who was tied up and helpless. Her screams and cries pierced through the speakers of his laptop. Daniel was horrified and immediately tried to exit the website, but his computer suddenly shut down. He tried to turn it back on, but it wouldn't budge. The screen flickered, and he saw a message pop up that read, "You can't leave. You know too much." The room went silent, and he could hear his heartbeat in his ears. Suddenly, the girl on the screen stopped screaming. A hooded figure stepped into view and walked towards her. Daniel watched in silence, powerless against what was happening. The figure pulled out a knife and began slicing her skin. Her screams sent chills down his spine, and the sound of flesh being cut made his skin crawl. Daniel tried to turn off his computer, but it wouldn't respond. He was trapped, watching this gruesome scene unfold before him. He could smell the iron in the air, and the sound of the girl's screams was like nails on a chalkboard. Finally, the stream ended, and the computer shut off. Daniel sat in shock, unable to move or process what had just happened. He thought he was safe, but he didn't realize the true nature of the dark web. From that day onwards, Daniel knew that he would never forget what he had seen. The Red Room would haunt him for the rest of his life. The dark web had shown him a side of humanity that he never wanted to witness again. And he knew that he could never unsee that horror.
I hope you enjoy the content I upload. If you like what I'm doing, why not think about clicking on the subscribe button to keep up to date on my uploads. Thank you all for the great support. As I sat alone in the dimly lit room, the glow of the computer screen casting an eerie light on my face, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I had been scrolling through the dark web for hours, delving deeper into the seedy underbelly of the internet, when I stumbled upon a user with a username that sent shivers down my spine: the unknown. Despite my better judgment, I clicked on their profile, and what I found chilled me to the bone. There was no personal information listed, no post history to speak of, but their profile picture was a shadowy figure that seemed to be lurking in the darkness. Curiosity got the better of me, and I messaged the unknown, asking if they were a seller or just someone browsing the web. Almost immediately, I received a reply with a link to a private chat room. As I entered the chat room, I was met with an eerie silence that seemed to echo through the screen. Suddenly, a message appeared on my screen from the unknown. It read, "Do you want to see something truly terrifying?" I hesitated, but my curiosity overpowered my fear, and I replied with a shaky, "Yes." The unknown sent me a link to a live stream, and as I clicked on it, my heart began to race. The screen flickered to life, revealing a dark room illuminated only by a single flickering candle. In the center of the room lay a lifeless body, its eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, and I saw that it was the unknown. Their face was shrouded in darkness, but I could feel their malevolent gaze piercing through the screen and into my soul. The unknown began to chant in a language I couldn't understand, and I realized with mounting horror that this wasn't just a harmless chat room. This was a place of unspeakable evil, a realm where the darkest nightmares of humanity were given form. As I watched in terror, the unknown began to perform a ritual, their hands moving in precise and calculated motions. The lifeless body on the floor began to move, slowly rising to its feet, its eyes now glowing with an otherworldly light. I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears as the unknown spoke to me through the chat window. "You should join us," they said. "We could use someone like you." I wanted to scream, to run away and never look back, but I was paralyzed with fear. I knew that I was in the presence of something beyond human comprehension, something that could devour my very soul. Without warning, the unknown's face suddenly filled the screen, their eyes glowing with a demonic intensity. I could feel their cold breath on my face, could sense their dark presence looming over me like a shroud. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the ritual ended. The screen flickered to black, leaving me alone in the darkness with nothing but my own terror to keep me company. I slammed my laptop shut and ran out of my apartment, my heart pounding in my chest, my mind consumed with fear and dread. From that day forward, I knew that I could never go back to the dark web, for I had seen things that no human was meant to see, and I knew that the unknown and their followers would stop at nothing to claim my soul for their own.
It was late at night, and John found himself alone in his apartment with nothing to occupy his time. He had always heard about the dark web and its notorious reputation, but he had always thought it was nothing more than an urban legend. But on this particular night, his curiosity got the better of him, and he began to search for the dark web marketplace. He had been browsing for a while when he stumbled upon a strange-looking marketplace selling very unusual items. He knew it was not something he should be looking at, but the desire to see more was irresistible. He clicked on one of the items, and to his horror, he found himself staring at something that he never thought could exist. He decided to backtrack and leave this place before something goes wrong. But before he could do so, he received a message from an anonymous user. The message read, "You should not be here. You should leave now if you value your life." John's nerves began to fray as he knew he was in deep trouble. He tried to find a way out of the site, but it seemed as if he was trapped. The site kept redirecting him back to a page with a message that read, "You are not allowed to leave." The message was written in bold letters, and the more he tried to leave, the harder the site pulled him back. Suddenly, he heard a strange noise outside his apartment. He peered out of the window but could see nothing. As he went back to his computer, he saw that the marketplace had changed, and the items for sale were darker and more sinister than before. The sellers were selling human organs and body parts. Suddenly, the anonymous user appeared on the screen, and his face was shrouded in darkness. "You should not have come here, John," the user said. "Now that you have seen too much, you must pay the price." Suddenly, the room went dark, and the door to the apartment burst open. From the darkness, a shadowy figure appeared, and John could barely make out its features. He tried to run, but the shadowy figure lunged at him, and the screen of his computer went black. John was never seen again, and no one knows what happened to him or who was behind the anonymous user's message. The marketplace remained online, and many more curious people checked it out, only to disappear without a trace. As days went by, people started to notice that something was off about John's apartment. The smell of rot and decay lingered in the air, and strange noises could be heard coming from the inside. When the authorities finally arrived to investigate, they found the apartment in a state of disarray, with furniture toppled over and bloodstains covering the walls. Upon further inspection, they discovered that the blood was not just John's, but belonged to multiple people. The investigation led them to the dark web marketplace that John had visited. The site was shut down, and its owners were arrested, but the horrors that they had perpetrated were beyond comprehension. It turned out that the marketplace was a hub for a black market organ trade, where people were being kidnapped and their organs harvested for sale to the highest bidder. John's curiosity had led him down a path of terror, and he had become just another victim of this twisted trade. In the years that followed, rumors started to spread that the dark web marketplace had resurfaced, and that the same shadowy figure that had attacked John had been seen lurking around the site. People whispered of a shadowy organization that ran the marketplace, with a leader so ruthless that even the most hardened criminals feared him. It was said that those who entered the marketplace never came back, and that the anonymous user was none other than the leader of this organization, warning off any who dared to cross him. John's disappearance had become a legend, and many believed that his spirit still haunted the dark corners of the web, warning off those who dared to venture too far into the darkness. The story of John's fate served as a cautionary tale to others, a reminder that sometimes curiosity can lead to the most horrifying consequences.